Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I wanted to share with you my beauty predictions for 2018. So I just came up with a bunch of different ideas that I think brands might be releasing in 2018 based on what their previous launches are, or if they've had like different teasers on Instagram about products that might be coming out in the future, and also some products that I hope brands release in the next year. So if you guys are interested in hearing about my beauty predictions for 2018, then just keep on watching. Alright, so the first thing on my list is something that I think will be released in early 2018, because I did go and Google and see if there has been any spoilers about this, and there has been, and it's a Shape Tape foundation from Tarte. So about a year ago, Tarte tweeted at Kathleen Lights. She suggested that they make a Shape Tape foundation, and I believe they're just like, we're working on it. And this was January of 2017. And so it's been about a year. So I think that we will see this like pretty early in 2018. Like, I don't think we'll go through 2018 without a Shape Tape foundation. Like, I really think that's gonna be a thing pretty quickly and pretty early into the year. And I could actually see Tarte coming out with more Shape Tape products, more than foundation and concealers, maybe powders, maybe something else. Maybe they'll have like a translucent powder, since those are like really hyped up by a lot of different brands right now. So maybe we will see that as well. But for sure, I think that we will see a Shape Tape foundation based on their Twitter spoiler from a year ago. And I think that we will see that pretty soon. And I think that will do really, really well. Like, Tarte Shape Tape is still super hyped up after what, like a year and a half now. And I think the Shape Tape foundation will be like what we need right now. And I think in the past year, there's been so many full coverage foundations that have come out that have kind of like redefined the term full coverage, because now we have like more breathable full coverage foundations. There's just been like a different standard of foundations in the past year. People want less of like a heavy makeup look. So I think that the Shape Tape foundation will be perfect and just like spot on with like the trend right now with foundations, and I think that will do really, really well. So I expect to see that by like early spring, since they did tease it already, and it's been a year since they did tease that. All right, so also from Tarte, I have a couple different ideas for eyeshadow palettes. So right now, metallics are super in. We're seeing like full metallic eyeshadow palettes. We just had the chocolate gold palette. Fenty Beauty just came out with a metallic palette. Urban Decay Heavy Metals. I think that trend will keep on going for a little while. And Tarte actually just released like a 5-pan palette that is all metallics. But what I think they're gonna do, or what I think they should do, is make a Tarte Pro palette that's the opposite of this. So the Tarte Pro palette has 4 shimmers and 16 matte shades. They should do the opposite and just have it like the chocolate gold palette, where it has just a few mattes, just like your basic mattes, and then all shimmers. I think that would make a lot of sense, and it would be a really great complementary palette to this. So I expect to see that. I feel like they're gonna come out with a second palette of the Tarte Pro palette, because I feel like this is the biggest palette from Tarte, and I really like this palette. I feel like it's a very timeless palette too. Like, some of their other collections are more like the Rainforest collection, some things that are like holiday based or just have different themes to them. But I feel like this palette is just very universal for everybody, for every occasion. And I think a metallic palette that is the opposite of this layout would work perfectly. I've definitely picked that up. And then I also see them coming out with another Tartelette palette in the next year. And the only thing they haven't really done yet is like a really cool palette. So we have a Tartelette in Bloom that has some cool shades to it. It's more cranberry based. The original one is all matte, but it's very muted. And then the latest one, the Tartelette Toasted, is more warm browns. So I see them coming out with something very cool, or something like grungy. I thought maybe like a smoky palette, but the Urban Decay smoky palette didn't do very well. I don't even know if they make it anymore. It was like severely discounted. So I don't know if they'll come out with something like a smoky version of this, or just something very grungy. The other way that I think that they can go with the Tartelette palette is just something like super colorful, just something more just completely out there compared to all the other palettes, and not have it like fit that neutral mold. But I can kind of see them going for more of like a really blue tone, something that's more silver based for the next Tartelette palette. All right, so I had a couple things on my list for Anastasia, because I started making this like a couple weeks ago, and last week they just like dropped a whole line of products. So one thing that I really thought that they would be coming out with, and they did confirm this, is a liquid foundation. And so what I think this liquid foundation is gonna be is maybe a luminous foundation, because they do have those liquid glow drops, and I think they will make like a luminous foundation that has maybe like a frosted bottle and kind of plays on that. I don't see them, I feel like they can maybe go either way, like something really glowy or something like super full coverage and matte, but I see them going more towards a luminous route with their first liquid foundation. And then again, I think they'll come out with like a concealer and a whole line of products. Anastasia did tease that they'll be coming out with setting powders and just like a whole line of products, mascaras. I could actually see them having like a really great eyeliner formula, kind of like the Urban Decay line, where you just have like every single color. Just because they're so good with their brow pencils, I can see them being the same way with like eyeliners, liquid eyeliners. And that was my main thing from Anastasia, is that I wrote down that they were going to have a liquid foundation, and then they did a spoiler about that last week. So I'm going to guess that it's going to be a luminous, like really radiant foundation. I'm probably going to be totally wrong on that, but that's my guess. And then the other thing that I think that they need to come out with next is bronzers, single bronzers. They do not have any bronzers, so they have all of their contour products. They have blushes now, highlighters, but I definitely think that they should have single bronzers, and I expect to see that next year because they're coming out with all these other products. I think that they're gonna have like a full line by the end of 2018. All right, so next we have Too Faced, and I came up with a bunch of different ideas for palettes for Too Faced. I had a lot of fun thinking about Too Faced products. So they just came out with a chocolate gold, and so that's like their first chocolate themed palette since their like Bonbons palette. That is right here. And they have the Sweet Peach palette that came out 2 years ago. So I feel like they can go in either directions, like keep making chocolate palettes or just keep making like food-based palettes. So what I think would make sense next to like tie everything together is like a pie-themed palette. So with this Sweet Peach collection that came out recently, they had a lot of things that had a lot of like pie decor. I have the Sweetie Pie bronzer that I've been loving that has that like pie detail to it. So I feel like they're gonna come out with a palette that is just pie themed, because that way they can go with like anything. They can make it all the colors. They don't have to stick to a certain theme. So I came up with a couple different ideas for shades in this palette. So they need to come out with this palette, and their Brow Bone matte shade needs to be called Buttery. You could have a dark brown, like an Oreo kind of like cookie crumble shade. There is this blue blueberry swirl shade in the semi-sweet palette, but I thought that they should have, what's it called? Just a blueberry crisp shade, like an apple cinnamon, like a graham cracker shade. You can just go in any direction with a pie themed palette. There's so many different kinds of pie, key lime pie, lemon meringue pie. You could have every color in this palette. It's so ideal. It can smell like everything. It can smell however you want it to smell. All of it smells good. So I feel like that would be just a really great palette idea for Too Faced, to have like a pie themed palette. And then the outside of the palette can look like a pie slice. It could have like the pie crust detailing, and I don't know. I just think that would be a really awesome palette idea for Too Faced. So the pie palette was my only idea for like their full-size palette. I have a couple different ideas, but I don't think that they would make sense for their full-size palettes based on their previous palettes. So I think that they should definitely come out with like a strawberries and cream palette, but they have the chocolate bonbon palette. So this is already like a pink theme palette. I think if it was a strawberry theme palette, it would be so much better where if it had like a lot of burgundy shades and you just had more variety and not just like a couple browns and a hot pink. Like I think that they could expand on the pink and reddish shade, like Modern Renaissance palette, but Too Faced. Like I feel like they need to have that. But because they have those chocolate bonbons, I feel like that would be too similar for a full-size palette. So I'm thinking that they can make it into like a mini palette like this one. And then also for a mini palette, I think that they should come out with a mint chocolate chip palette. And I feel like a lot of people have hinted at that, like they want to see that next from Too Faced. I always see it in like comments, at least in the past, I feel like I've seen that idea thrown out there. And I don't think that they would come out with that, at least anytime soon, in a full-size palette, because they just came out with a Clover palette, and the packaging of that is like the color of mint chocolate chip ice cream. So I don't see them coming out with something that has like a similar color scheme anytime soon, at least in a full size. But maybe that idea can be in a 9pan palette like this. Also, I think next to the peanut butter themed palettes, they need to do a peanut butter and chocolate palette. So the peanut butter and jelly palette awesome. A lot of people loved this palette. I still like this palette a lot. I never use it anymore, but this is definitely a good palette. But then we have the peanut butter and honey palette, and this palette isn't good. I meant to return this, but I lost the receipt. So I've kept it for the past like almost year since it came out. The colors in here, they're just not that pigmented. They don't work really well. They're just really bland colors. But most of all, like the formula is not that great anyways. But I think a peanut butter and chocolate palette would be spot on, just having like more of a smoky, warm palette. Something similar to the peanut butter and jelly palette, but you have so much variety because you have white chocolate, milk chocolate, dark chocolate, just a lot of variety in there that you could add a lot of different shades, and I think it'll be a very wearable palette. And then with the peanut butter and chocolate palette, I feel like they can make the packaging like a little bit more glam and a little less cutesy, kind of like the chocolate gold palette. Like I really like the packaging of this. I feel like it's just like has this like more of a sophisticated look. It's less cutesy than like this palette. Like I definitely prefer something like this. So I feel like they can play that up and have it just like marketed a little bit different if they do a chocolate, peanut butter and chocolate palette. So I really want to see that. I feel like that makes a lot of sense, and it makes so much more sense than these like random like yellow shades. So I definitely want to see that from Too Faced. All right, next, this was on my list and they just announced this like 2 days ago. So Benefit, I always think of Benefit mascaras. That is like something that is really hyped up by them. Their Roller Lash, their real mascara. Those are like some of their best selling products. I'm like, they might as well come out with lashes. Like Tarte has lashes, Benefit should have lashes. And they did announce just like over this weekend that they are coming out with single lashes. So I definitely think that they will be coming out with strip lashes in the future, and I think those will do really, really well. So I'm excited for those individual lashes, and hopefully they do also come out with strip lashes. I just think those will be really popular. I think that they would come out with another mascara since like the Roller Lash and they have their real, but I feel like they need something that's kind of like the Better Than Sex but for Benefit. So their real mascara is something that's very long wearing and something that gives you like a lot of length. The Roller Lash mascara gives you a lot of curls, so I'm expecting to see something that is more like voluminous, something that doesn't have a rubber wand, because both of those do. Something that has just gives you a lot more volume, something a little bit different from Benefit, just like another mascara, another lash kind of product, or even like a lash extensions mascara. And then I also expect them to come out with liquid concealers. So they do have liquid foundations, the Hello Flawless, they have that BB tint foundation, and they do have concealers, but they're all pot concealers or just like heavier concealers. They have the Boy Ying concealer. So they just released like a couple months ago this new line of the Boy Ying concealers. They have the more heavy duty ones, but you guys know I love this brightening concealer, so I expect to see like this in a liquid form. And they could also go with the Hello Flawless formula and go with like Hello Flawless concealers. But I expect them to go with like the whole Boy Ying theme and do more like a lightweight concealer, a liquid concealer for sure, because they do have liquid foundations and also setting powders. So I think that would just expand Benefit a lot to have concealers in their range. And then I also expect them to come out with a Hoola Glow bronzer. So I've thought about this for a long time, and Too Faced just released their chocolate gold bronzer. So that makes me think even more that Benefit's going to come out with a Hoola Glow bronzer. I don't know if my naming is going to be correct, but I expect them to do something like more of a sun-kissed Hoola bronzer, something just more luminous. I also hope that they come out with a Hoola Deep bronzer, because they did come out with a Hoola Light, which is basically like my complexion. It's very, very fair, and Hoola is actually more of a light medium shade too, so I hope they come out with a Hoola Deep as well. And then if they do expand this Hoola line, they should come out with like trios of their blush, bronzer, and a highlighter. So I have a couple examples for reference. So they came out with their Cheekathon palette 2 years ago. This has all of their blushes and their Hoola bronzer, and the Cheek Parade palette is very similar. It has like 1 or 2 different shades in there. So I think that they can keep going with this idea, but just make them trios and have it similar to like this, like the Mary Luminizer Sisters, where you have, well, this is an all highlighter palette, but just kind of like this concept where you get a blush, bronzer, and a highlighter with the Benefit products. I feel like they would sell really well because Hoola does so well, their box blushes do so well. So I think that they should make trios with highlighters and the different style of bronzers that I hope that they come out with. All right, next we have ColourPop. So I have a couple different ideas for ColourPop. I think ColourPop is going to have everything, but by the end of 2018, the rate that they are making products, and they're making really good products. They make a lot of products, they have a lot of launches, but the products are actually good, which is amazing. So I definitely see them coming out with foundations in 2018. They did just come out with concealers in the past couple months, so I definitely see them coming out with foundations and just expanding in complexion products, maybe primers. And I really think that they're going to be coming out with skincare. So a couple months ago, they came out with, what was it called? Their crystal priming sprays. They had a couple of different like primer sprays, and I felt like they weren't really hyped up because I personally was just like confused by seeing them. I just didn't expect it from ColourPop like right then and there. But now that we have like their concealers and they're just expanding to different products, like I'm more prepared for skincare or different kind of just complexion products from ColourPop. So what I think they should do is just start out with like a transition product between makeup and skincare. So they did have the primer sprays, but I feel like they should go into like a makeup setting spray. I feel like those would do really, really well. Kind of like dupes for MAC Fix Plus or Urban Decay All Night, or something that's gonna just be more of a makeup product and not advertised as skincare. And once we get into that, then we can move into face primers, maybe like a primer stick, because those are kind of trendy right now. And just different kind of face primers. Like they have a lot of different ones for like oily skin, normal, dry, and then we can move into a whole skincare line with ColourPop. So I think that they should start off with like maybe a face mask, something that's like really trendy, whatever the next like bubble mask trend is. I think ColourPop will maybe come out with that, and it'll just spark a lot of curiosity, and it will be good. And then they'll start coming out with more skincare products, like more affordable skincare, kind of like e.l.f., because e.l.f. does like kill it with their affordable skincare. They actually have really great products. So I definitely see ColourPop doing something really similar where they have like a whole line of affordable skincare products. I see that coming out pretty soon, and I think that that is realistic since they did come out with those primer sprays over the summer. So I'm excited about that because I could definitely see that happening, like skincare coming out from ColourPop. So next, I think that we're going to be seeing a lot more from Stila in 2018, and I feel like Stila has been really underrated over the past couple years, but this year they have been so big with their liquid eyeshadows. Everybody's been wearing them. They just get a lot of positive reviews, and they weren't just like a one-hit wonder. They weren't just like trendy for a week. Like I still use them all the time. They are really amazing products, and people are always using them, and they just keep coming out with more and more shades, and people keep buying them. So I really see Stila stepping it up this year with their eyeshadow palettes. I always think of Stila as more of like a natural makeup brand, like a natural makeup look, more of like a fresh face look. They do have eyeshadow palettes. They're very like standard, smaller eyeshadow palettes. There hasn't been anything that's like really out there, like super trendy. They do have some more neutral palettes. They do have colorful palettes too, but the packaging, all of it just looks very like safe, not anything that's like very new. So I think that they're gonna come out with some eyeshadow palettes that are really going to be talked about in 2018. I feel like we really trust Stila right now with eye products and glitter products because they have like proved how well they can make glitter eye products because their liquid eyeshadows are just awesome. So I see that turning into eyeshadow palettes, like a glitter palette, just more creative eyeshadow palettes from Stila. They're going to be really hyped up and people are going to be talking a lot about because I never see people wearing Stila eyeshadows. I feel like their liquid eyeshadows are like the most popular product right now and what everybody's wearing, and I think that they will come out with some other product, probably an eyeshadow palette that's gonna have like the same amount of hype. All right, so lastly, this is not a product, but this is a prediction of where a brand is gonna be going. And I think that by the end of 2018, we will see Kylie Cosmetics at Sephora. And I feel like in the past couple months, like her brand has really shifted. And especially with this launch coming up of the concealers, the lipsticks, and the super overpriced brushes, she's really trying to be like a really luxury brand. And the packaging also has changed a lot. Like if you look at the concealer packaging and the lipstick packaging that is coming out this week, that is so different than like the lip kit packaging. The packaging of Kylie lip kits are very like trendy, are very like Kardashian, like they're very trendy, they're very like social media. And I feel like if you look at the packaging of the lipsticks that are coming out right now and the concealers, those are like on brand with Sephora. I feel like that makes sense in a Sephora display, and I can see that happening. And just seeing the brushes that Kylie is releasing this week and the prices of them, I feel like she really wants to be seen as a luxury brand. She did actually tweet that it's comparable to like Kevyn Aucoin and like really high-end brushes, so we'll see about that. I mean, I won't because I'm not gonna buy any of them, but at least like the concealers, I feel like if the reviews are good and she could kind of shift her brand to do a lot more and we'll trust her with more foundations and complexion products, as long as the concealers are good, I think that can like kind of change the course of her brand. If they go over really, really well, like this can turn into a Sephora brand. I don't know if the quality would be there, but I feel like the packaging and the expectation can move towards Sephora. I mean, there's been a lot of new brands at Sephora recently, and if we see like really good reviews about the concealers, I do actually want to purchase the concealer myself too, and we can trust Kylie Cosmetics to make good complexion products, then I feel like that's gonna really expand the brand in a different direction, more like a little bit more mature and less just trendy, like super intense metallic highlighters. I feel like they can really expand to a very like well-rounded range of cosmetics. So I'm really curious to see like how hyped up the concealers are for Kylie, if they are worth it, because Kylie just releases a lot of products now that I think that we're kind of overseeing like new eyeshadow palettes from her like every other month. They're not as hyped up as they used to be. So I do think that the concealers can be a little bit game changing for Kylie Cosmetics. I actually do hope that they work really well because I do want to buy them. And if Kylie was sold at Sephora, a lot of people would really like the brand a lot better. I know I don't order as much from Kylie as I want to because I just get so paranoid about their shipping, their customer service, and everything like that, and just all these extra things that you need to deal with, because if you don't like something, I don't think you can return their products. If it was at Sephora, I would buy so much more from Kylie Cosmetics and try out more products. So I think that would really expand her brand a lot. And I can definitely see her wanting to be in Sephora, especially just like with the new packaging and everything. I can see it going into Sephora and going over well in Sephora too. Alright guys, so those are all of my beauty predictions for 2018. Some of them are actually based in real teasers from different brands, and some of them are completely made up, so let's see how accurate they end up being. I'll be so happy if any of my predictions actually come true, but definitely let me know what your beauty predictions are for 2018 in the comments, or what you would like to see from brands in 2018 in general. And if you guys like this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and I'll talk to you guys soon in my next video. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.